Hi everybody, it's Rob and welcome to the Cover to Cover Bible reading. We first started with Genesis 1 to 4 and our next reading assignment will be Genesis 5 to 16. I'm going to just throw out some of my ideas and concepts from my reading of Genesis 1 to 4, put this in a blog entry, and would appreciate your input. You can always go back to the original blog entry that had the assignment and read some of the comments that have been written in the last week by the 30 or so of us who are participating in this. So I think it's great. If you have any friends you think might want to participate, bring them along in. We've only gone 7 pages in, and the next reading assignments maybe in another 12 pages, I think, 12 to 16 pages. So very easy to catch up at this stage of the game. Let's keep chugging along or chugging along, and let's do this. I love the fact that it starts out with "in the beginning." That the Bible starts out, and it's the only holy book that does start that way. And we do know scientifically that this coincides because the universe, according to science, is not eternal, that it had a beginning, and the Bible says so. It's also very interesting to me on a scientific level that the very first thing God says is "let there be light." The very first thing that he creates. Of course, he is light. Certainly would be easy for him to do so with that. The Bible says that God is light. But he created light in the universe. Quantum mechanics, which is what we think is the building block of all life itself, from the smallest elements of the quarks, are light waves, that light was the origin of life as we know it here in the universe, and the first thing that God creates is light, which coincides with science. Just, I know non-believers aren't going to really buy into that, but if it wasn't that way, non-believers would be pointing to the fact that light was not the origin, and so it didn't coincide. I mean, really, you can't have it both ways. It's also interesting for me on the idea of evolution. If you were a theist evolutionist, which I consider myself, I don't think that evolution is an improbable theory. I think that it's possible. Is it possible that it's not true? Sure. But I think there's a lot of evidence for it. And so I see that, but I don't think that takes us out of the realm of God and creation from God. And I find it interesting that Genesis 1 coincides with that, because it's not man that's created first. It is the animals that are created first, according to Genesis 1, and then man, which coincides with the idea of evolution. I've read some folks that say, well, this doesn't sound fair or reasonable, the idea of natural selection, that God would create this mechanism by which life would occur. And it's like, well, there are a lot of things in life that aren't fair. I don't think we can judge God or the things that God did or the process in which he may have created life and say that's not fair, when life is not fair and God is created that way. So I don't find that to be a credible argument personally. So, to continue on, then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy. So this made me think of the 10 Commandments and the one commandment that says that we are to keep the Sabbath holy, and we don't. And here I am on a Saturday, and I'm doing something creative, and it's caused me to pause. I know that Jesus really is our Sabbath rest, and like he said, the Sabbath is made for man and not man for the Sabbath. And certainly Jesus had a lot of issues with the Pharisees and how we are to treat the Sabbath. And really, in doing this, I hope to glorify God through this process. And I don't know if this would be in conflict with the idea of resting. I am doing a creative work, but I know that Pastor George, for instance, would have issue with it, and it's just something that I'm thinking about, and maybe you can comment on the idea of the Sabbath and why we as Christians, the majority of us, really don't adhere to that God made the seventh day and he blessed the seventh day and he made it holy. Genesis 2 is a scratch your head situation for me, because I don't know whether it's a mistranslation or if other people that are watching this have some different insight into it. I really haven't looked into it all that much. But Genesis 2:5 says that before any shrub appears on the earth, because there hadn't been any rain for them to appear, God created man, which seems to contradict, if you will, the structure of Genesis 1. That man came after plants and animals, and yet plants don't seem to have appeared on the earth. Perhaps it's a mistranslation, and certainly we're talking about the area, small area in which man would have been created. That Adam and Eve, the Garden of Eden, is a small area versus the whole, the whole earth, really. But it does say in the translation I have with the NIV that no shrub yet appeared on the earth. It didn't say in that particular area. So I wonder how we reconcile that. That is something that is a scratch your head moment. And why Genesis 1 says the shrubs are already there, and Genesis 2 seems to indicate no shrubs were there at the time man was created. Another comment I have is I love that the fact that the Euphrates and the Tigris still exist, and we can go there and see the areas in which God created the initial thinking man as we know it. And however he did it, that those areas are still there, that the area where this all began is there. But it also made me wonder, where is Eden? And are the cherubs that with the flaming sword guarding the tree of life, is that somewhere still? Kind of like, Indiana Jones and that Holy Grail, and there was the old knight who was guarding the Grail itself. Is it possible that somebody could eventually dig down, or through the sediment or whatever, and find the tree of life, and there would be cherubs that are guarding with a flaming sword? I don't know. It's kind of interesting. I wonder what happened to Eden. Another comment I had is that Genesis 1-4 really shows God's patient nature and his desire for us not to be forced into confession of the things that we do wrong, of our sin, but to confess ourselves. He does it with Adam and Eve when he shouts, Adam, where are you? God full well knows where Adam is, and he makes Adam shout out himself and indicate where it is where he's located. Also as to what they've done, they have to confess it. And the same occurs with Cain. Cain asks, where's your brother? And Cain says, am I my brother's keeper? God full well knows where Abel is, that Abel had been killed by Cain. And so I find it interesting that Cain is made to do the confession himself. Another comment I had is I wonder what the purpose of Lamech's comments are in Genesis 4. Lamech, where he talks to his wives, if you will, and he's asked them to hear his words that he's killed a man, or he will kill a man that wounds him, or a young man that injures him. And if Cain is avenged 7 times, as God said Cain would if somebody harmed Cain, Lamech says, I will be avenged 77 times. And I don't recall if we're going to see Lamech again. I don't think that we do. So I wonder what your thoughts are on the purpose of this part being in there. It seems superfluous. It seems sort of unnecessary. I wonder what you think. So please let me know. And then on the issue of God having created others, like did he create others outside of Adam and Eve from the dust, or are our origins really from ancestral relationships as they started? And I think that really the Bible seems to indicate that God had created others, that Adam and Eve were the first made from dust, but that others were made thereafter. And why I say that is because Genesis 4:25 says, Adam lay with his wife again, and she gave birth to a son and named him Seth. And then Adam says, God has granted me another child in place of Abel, since Cain killed him. And he says, God has granted me another child. He doesn't say a son, which might indicate that there were a lot of daughters that were born. He says child in this NIV translation. So to me, that seems to indicate that Adam and Eve at this point in time had 3 children. This was their third child. And if Cain was able to go on and marry somebody outside of the area, it stands to reason to me that there weren't any other children that were born to Adam and Eve that he would have been able to marry. So there's some food for thought. What do you think? That's it. Thank you for joining. Next assignment due July 17th. It's July 10th right now, is Genesis 5-16. And so that's it. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.